All right, everyone, welcome into episode 180 of Two Countries, Two Americas All Sports, the only sports podcast to talk about both American and Brazilian sports. I'm Nicole, live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, United States, currently under a tornado watch. And joining me from a city that is not under a tornado watch, Gus Tomazelli from Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil. Gus, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. I guess you know why.
Yeah, the New York Knicks are now up by 37 with 7 minutes remaining in the.
It's it's so crazy to me that like I was watching today Clay Travis Outkick show, and he pointed out something that is interesting. Like for Knicks fans, this feels surreal. I guess this was on the making because the Knicks has been somewhat decent to good in the last like 2 to 3 years. But still, though, for a fan like myself that started to be a Knicks fan back in 2011 and had hope with Carmelo Anthony and Mark Stoudemire, and we had that disappointment in the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Pacers, and then everything fell apart with James Dolan, very incapable to be the a good owner. Phil Jackson being the president of the basketball operation and also screwing up, and then everything fell apart. And then Carmelo left, and all the stars left, and then we had a long rebuild, and now we are 6 minutes and 28 seconds away from going back to a Eastern Conference Finals.
I'm shocked that Clay Travis was talking NBA. I thought he was basically boycotting the NBA.
He when he needs to talk, National Basketball Association, he will. He just likes to ventilate and tries to amplify some points that he wants to make, and
I mean,
but
I guess to be fair, I guess LeBron James is no longer in the playoffs. So, like, that's his primary punching bag for
yeah,
non-sports reasons. Um, and not basketball, but hey, it's insane though to see New York be back in the Eastern Conference Finals. Also, the other major sport event going on tonight, we have the Maple Leafs and the Panthers in Game 6. The Maple Leafs are 4 minutes away; they're up 2-0 right now from forcing a Game 7 in that series, which would be definitely some insane scenes. Game 7 in Toronto, if that occurs. But let's kind of start with the Knicks and the Celtics in the NBA playoffs because definitely the story of this series, at least the end of the series, was Jason Tatum going down with injury at the, I believe it was game 4 when he went down with injury. And, Boston came out game 5 and they really put on a show. They dominated at home, but they had to go into a raucous Madison Square Garden tonight, and it just hasn't worked out. But the Knicks got up to a 3-1 lead even with the Jason Tatum injury that occurred, or even without that injury. So, guys, kind of, what do you think has been the main difference for the Knicks this season to overcome a Boston team that's coming off a championship and has all that experience? And also, shout out to your grandma, Amelia Camargo, for watching.
yeah, yeah. She's watching from here, Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil. But I think the main difference this team got. You talk about experience, but the Knicks also gain a lot of experience. Uh, Even the way they lost the playoffs last year, it weren't very heartbreaking. Knicks fans were like, okay, we made that far. We made that far. We are proud, but they knew that they would have come back stronger than ever. Knicks fans knew when you face a Boston team that kind of relies more than they should with Jason Tatum, and when he got injured, of course, they overcome themselves in Game 5, but they had to, and that fatigue is showing tonight. That 30 plus point lead. It's the Knicks team feels more healthy and they feel more ready to advance.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, when you lose your superstar in that situation, that's what's going to end up happening. I mean, tonight for the Boston Celtics, if you look at their starting lineup, Jalen Brown's had a decent game, 20 points, 6 assists, 6 rebounds, but like, um, no one else is above 10 points tonight in the starting lineup. Drew Holiday, especially, is 1 of 8 from the field right now. No one off the bench is really contributing a lot, and you needed a lot of guys to come together to mask the hole of a Jason Tatum, and and the Celtics just weren't able to do that here. Now, where they really lost this series, if you really think about it, they should be up 3-2 right now, heading back to Boston for a game 7. But where they really lost this series was game 2. By collapsing down the stretch, not scoring a field goal for 8 minutes, and allowing New York to go on like a 25-4 run to go up 2-0. During our last podcast, we were watching the end of that insane game, that insane comeback. I mean, once you allow a team to do that to you in the playoffs, it's really difficult to come back and win. And the Celtics, frankly, were done there, even with the Jason Tatum injury.
Yeah, and that collapse was, at home. So, that felt even harder for the Celtics. It was a very painful defeat, to say the least.
Right. I'll be interested to see how Boston moves forward after this because they just won a title. So I don't think, you can entertain the idea of removing Joe Mazzulla. I think that would be insane because obviously you have the Tatum injury. Now, how fast will he come back from that? We don't know. Like, how good will he be after that? There are questions. Like, I don't think this is like a Golden State Warriors type dynasty. I don't think this is a Chicago Bulls type dynasty or Miami Heat. Like, I think, when you look at the Boston Celtics, I mean, they're going to have to really fight to win more championships compared to perhaps like what the Warriors had at their peak or what the Heat had at their peak, because I don't think the Celtics necessarily, like, the Celtics have a lot of really, really good players, but to me, like, they don't have I mean, Tatum is very, very good, and sometimes he's great. But I just think that ultimately the Celtics here, it's going to come back.
But to make a broader point, Nick, I feel the NBA is really moving away from those dynasties that you just mentioned. I don't think for quite a while there's going to be another super team like the 90s Bulls, the 2010s Miami Heat, or even the late 2010s Golden State Warriors. If you see the teams that try to replicate that didn't work. We mentioned on the last podcast the team that tried to do that, the Clippers with Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, and it didn't work out. The Lakers brought Luka Doncic to go along LeBron James. It didn't work out.
Well, I mean, can we say it didn't work out? I also want to shout out Leo Jocelyn. He's asking me, let me join Weekend Debates.
Oh, I mean, if you want
I don't think he's still watching anymore. I think he left. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if anybody, we can send the link. I mean, our podcast.
The problem is because obviously I'm live streaming this on TikTok too, is sometimes you get trolls that come through. So I got to evaluate whether I think these people are trolls or not, because they'll come on and start chanting stupid stuff to.
Okay. I guess it's fair.
So, anyway, that's just something to keep in mind there. But I want to push back the one you just said. Like, can we say that Luka to the Lakers has truly not worked out at this point? Like, I feel like, I mean, they just got him. I mean, they've just had him for a few months. Like, yeah, they didn't win a title this year, but were the expectations for the Lakers to win a championship this year? Like, I don't feel like those were the expectations for the Lakers this year. Because, I mean, everyone knew when they made that trade, they had no center. That the rest of the supporting cast was still somewhat questionable. I don't think any person should have expected the Lakers to win the championship this year. Now, should they have gone farther than the first round with LeBron and Luka? Probably. But, you know, and we got to talk about this later with the NBA draft results, but maybe Dallas is starting to look less and less dumb for that decision, potentially. But I don't know. I don't know what you think about that, Gus, because I don't know if I can qualify the Luka trade as a disaster yet for LA. Now, if they never would have
No,
playoff,
no, I was not pointing out that the trade was a disaster. I'm just saying that teams that try to create dynasty through stars, it feels like this 2020s NBA, you know, it feels like the NBA has more parity than ever. Like it feels like there's when we think though Milwaukee's gonna dominate with Giannis, no. Denver, no. Boston, no. So it feels like there's an emerging teams, that were forgotten in the past few years. And not only the Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers. I know they are in the brink of elimination, but uh, I, they're good again. We have the Knicks, and I feel like those emerging young teams have really
and it's
stopped those.
officially over, Gus. The Knicks have officially won the series against Boston. And obviously, Madison Square Garden is going nuts right now. We had Tracy Morgan, and I didn't know who that was next to him. He's celebrating in the camera because got Spike Lee. The first Eastern Conference Finals they've been to since 2000.
Wow, when they had that improbable run as an 8th seed where they defeated the Miami Heat and the Pacers, I believe, and they had that improbable run, which finished with a sweep by the Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, that was an all-time San Antonio Spurs team that they ran into with a young Tim Duncan and a seasoned David Robinson. And that was the first Popovich championship, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but hey, obviously, huge moment for the Knicks. Congratulations to them. It's been a long time coming. And, the NBA has needed the New York Knicks to be good for a long time, right? Because it's New York. It's the basketball mecca. Like when you think basketball, you think, playing on the hard tops in Harlem, right? Like that is the soul of basketball in the United States. And for the team in New York to be not good for years has really been, I feel like, a strain on the NBA, right? Like when you have all these dynasties, people are getting tired of the dynasties, you literally have the biggest media market here with the Knicks, who have sucked for most of my life. And then you have the Nets, who also have mostly sucked for most of my life. And even when the Nets were good, like, who cares, right? Like, they're the Nets. They're the sideshow in New York. It's not like the Knicks, not like the Yankees, where there's a lot of Mets fans.
And for us, they were the New Jersey Nets. It feels like they moved from Brooklyn, but they're kind of like when still don't feel like you belong in New York. Like if you ask most New Yorkers, the Knicks are the New York team.
Right. I mean, it's not like Yankees much where like the Yankees are like an international brand compared to the Mets. But like the Mets in a way kind of feel more New York almost than the Yankees, at least in some parts of New York. Or like the Jets and Giants where there's like a cultural divide there on who is who. Like New York definitely feels like it's a Knicks town. And because they play at Madison Square Garden, the Madison Square Garden has an aura unlike any other basketball arena. Like it's MSG, and the New York Knicks, have let the aura of MSG die over years, but now that's coming back, and they're gonna need that aura of Madison Square Garden for this next series because their old nemesis awaits them. Nemesis, and perhaps I have slowly become a fan of myself. Now, I'm not like a hardcore fan of them, but I do enjoy watching them play the Indiana Pacers, who beat the Cleveland Cavaliers in 5 games and went off and just had an amazing comeback in game 5 to win. Now, these guys are they're the comeback kids, right? They come back in game 2 with a miracle win. And then game 5 with Cleveland trying to save their season. The Pacers came back and said, no, sirree. And it's not just the Tyrese Halliburton show when it comes to Indiana. Like this entire team, when they got guys like Nembhard, had Pascal Siakam, Miles Turner, like all of these dudes are dogs. Like they hit massive shots at big times. They play super fast or super aggressive. And they're just a very fun team to watch. Also, I want to say Toronto has won. So that's going to a 7th game in the Stanley Cup. But yeah, the Pacers were just super impressive in this series. And for the Cavs, I feel like this is just a giant failure. Like to get the 1 seed and get just gentlemen swept like that. Like they didn't at any point in the series look like the better team. I mean, well, okay, in game 2 and game 5, at times they looked like the better team, but they were unable to finish. And to me, like, one, this is a stain for Donovan Mitchell. And I get he got kind of hurt in game 4, so perhaps he wasn't playing at 100% in game 5, but he still played very well in game 5. To me, like, this proves to me that I don't think he's a superstar capable of willing his team to winning games in the postseason. Because he's never truly taken a team deep into the playoffs. And once again, this showed. And then 2, to me, the surrounding cast just doesn't show up in the big moments for Cleveland. And, for Cleveland, I feel like there's an added pressure now of like, okay, we had our success while we had LeBron James, but can we find success without him? And it's felt like the first team post LeBron that truly had that capability, but it didn't work in the postseason. Now, they were great in the regular season, but no one cares about the regular season, right? Like, getting the 1 seed in the NBA regular season, like, who cares? Because over half the teams make the playoffs. But when you have, when you have Max Strus going 0 of 9 in a closeout game.
And we talk about number 1 seeds, what the East number 1 seed were eliminated, and the number 1 seed in the West is really close to be eliminated. So if you see the seeds, it might be 6 against 4 and 4 against 3. So it just proves that the regular season is one championship and postseason is another.
Oh, for sure. I think that, the Cleveland just wasn't ready for that postseason at all. Like, Darius Garland has a lot of room to work on. Like, 4 of 16 got totally cooked in this series. So it's going to be interesting to see how they progress after this. But the Indiana Pacers are a serious good team. And we get Pacers Knicks once again here. The Pacers won last year. What was it, 6 that they won in? Or was it 7? That game, that went to 7.
Oh, it went to, 7 games.
Yeah, and the Pacers embarrassed the Knicks in MSG.
Yeah.
So, kind of what do you think is, do you think we're looking at a similar series to last year, or, which
I think it's gonna go. I think it's gonna go to 7 games.
Like, what do the Knicks have to do different this year to overcome the Pacers and make it to the NBA Finals?
I mean, I think it's the way they've been playing. With the duo, Karl Anthony Towns, which always it's so funny. Like when he went to the Knicks, he wasn't the star that Knicks fans were excited like Carmelo, like Derrick Rose, but he proved himself to be the star, the leader of this team. He made 21 points tonight. He I know he wasn't good in a 3-point, 1 for 6, but I think he and Jalen Brunson is a duo that is making a difference to the Knicks.
Right. But I do think that to a certain extent that Tom Thibodeau and the Knicks will have to find a way to better adjust to the Pacers' pace of play. Like, because Tom Thibodeau is a defensive coach first, slow pace of play. And versus Rick Carlisle's very up-tempo pace. I think that kind of cost him last year. So how does Tom Thibodeau, who tends to like play his players longer than other NBA coaches would in terms of the rotations, I think he's going to have to be more liberal with the rotations. I think he's going to have to keep his guys as fresh as possible to run with Indiana. Because I don't know if you're going to slow Indiana. Like, is there a way you can make Indiana play slow, make them play your pace for 7 games? I tend to think that I think Indiana is going to find a way to dictate pace. I think that'll be the key in this series. Who dictates the pace of play in this series? And that's why for me, I'm going to take the Pacers in 6 to make the NBA Finals.
I believe the Knicks has matured from last year. Knicks in 7.
We'll see what happens. We'll try Jason on here. No, he's a diehard Knicks fan. All right,
Yeah,
diehard Pacers fan. Excuse me.
hopefully he can join on Thursday, maybe next week, maybe on Thursday. Probably, for the, you know, after reacting to game 1. I invited him, but I guess his schedule has been busy.
Yeah, I think he's going for some stuff. So, in any case, on the other side, we have in the West, we have another team already in the conference finals, the Minnesota Timberwolves. They defeated the Warriors in 5. And this one was kind of, you could almost maybe put an asterisk next to this, right? Because, Steph Curry got hurt early on. And, the Timberwolves just ultimately, with more youth in this situation, it benefited them, to be healthier. And Anthony Edwards, of course, had another great series. But I mean, he also got help too, right? You got Julius Randle and Rudy Gobert and Mike Conley. Like this is a very, very good team that Minnesota has assembled. And Jimmy Butler, who was brought in to be the duo, the new duo with Steph Curry, right? With Klay Thompson being gone now. Jimmy Butler didn't play that well in this series, especially being the guy. And we've seen Jimmy Butler be the guy in Miami and lead them to 2 different NBA Finals appearances when no one really expected them to make the finals either time. But the Warriors are just different because to me, like the way that Eric Spoelstra sets up Miami versus the way that
Steve Kerr.
Kerr sets up the Warriors is just different, right? Like the Warriors are set up to play through Curry, and when Curry's gone, like the Warriors are just a shell of their former selves, while Miami, like Eric, Spoelstra was much more, flexible. And to me, Jimmy Butler just doesn't fit as well into the Warriors, mold.
Yeah, I think definitely the shout out Allison D'Amito here in Americana watching and saying good night. And I think Jimmy Butler definitely was brought in to have to beat this duel with Stephen Curry and to kind of compose the team in a different way to be more relentless. But when Stephen Curry got injured, I think the team kind of fell apart. And and now are we seeing the end of the Curry care era for the Golden State Warriors?
I mean, it feels like this has to be near the end, right? Like I would be very surprised if the Warriors win another NBA title with that duo.
I mean,
But
in this century,
it's just father time.
I mean, in this 21st century, probably the team that has the longest head coach in the and the longest star head coach duo in the league in this century.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing to be ashamed about for Golden State. It's just at a certain point, it just just time runs out, and the Warriors have done everything. Like those two really have nothing more to prove. So I'm just curious to see how much more they keep it running over there. But Minnesota is certainly young and they're upcoming, and I'm very curious to see what they've got coming along. Now, there is still one series that has not been decided, and that is the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Denver Nuggets. But first, more shout out to Allison Demento saying good night in Portuguese. Boa noite. So good night to you, sir. Uh, so the Denver Nuggets, though, did not want to go into the good night of the postseason because they won Game 6 and forced a Game 7. So Denver versus Oklahoma City, and to me, I feels like all the pressure in this game is on Oklahoma City. Like Oklahoma City was the best team in the regular season. Side guy, just Alexander has been amazing in the regular season, but still hasn't won in the postseason, right? Like in Chet Holmgren and the guys around him have not won in the postseason. So Oklahoma City too, right? Like there's even like more pressure. Like when you compare them to the Cleveland Cavaliers, like Cleveland obviously had success with LeBron. They won a championship, but they have struggled to find an identity post LeBron. Like for OKC, right? They get stabbed in the back by KD. Russell Westbrook really doesn't do much of anything with them outside of stat pad. And Oklahoma City had to blow it up, rebuild, and now they're back with a new core. But still, right? Like there's still that specter of Kevin Durant, right? Like you had Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and then you also had James Harden in Oklahoma City all at the same time, and you didn't win anything. And now you've got a new young core, but you're facing off against Nikola Jokic, who is probably the most talented center of this generation, has won a championship in his own right. And despite them firing a coach right before the playoffs, they've taken you to 7 games. So to me, like Oklahoma City has all the pressure in the world on them in this moment.
Yeah, and you talk about perfectly, like the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Oklahoma City Thunder still has some ghosts to kill, to prove they can be a viable competitive team without those stars of the past. They don't need anymore Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Kevin Durant. They have a new core right now, but they have all the pressure in the world on Game 7 to make that into a reality, not just and not just like the Cavaliers that did a terrific regular season, fell apart in the postseason.
Right. And to me, this Game 7 is going to come down not to necessarily Jokic, because you're not going to stop Jokic. Jamal Murray is the key, right? Like when the Nuggets won their championship in 2022, Jamal Murray was very clutch. He was key throughout that postseason. Last night, he had 25, 8, and 7. Additionally, Christian Braun also had 23 and 11 last night as well. So if you have guys around him that play really well, like a Michael Porter Jr., like he didn't really play well last night, but hey, like he still had double-digit points. Aaron Gordon only had 5. All of the 5 starters for the Denver Nuggets were in plus territory, in the plus minus stats. Well, you had Jalen Williams, who was only 3 of 16 shooting. Like the role players were going to decide this. Like SGA is going to be good. Nikola Jokic is going to be good. Which set of supporting players are going to be better? And you've got to remember the Denver Nuggets players, when you look at Aaron Gordon, and Michael Porter, and Jalen and Jamal Murray, all those guys were with Jokic when they won the championship a few years ago. Those guys know how to play and how to win. Also, you have Russell Westbrook coming off the bench, who has plenty of experience. And of course, for him, I'm sure he's going to have an extra chip on his shoulder to knock out OKC, as he's still trying to chase his first ever championship.
Yeah, I think for Denver, this series about keep that momentum going, and especially being the team in the West that everybody thought they were last year, but they fell apart.
Right. To me, even though this game's in Oklahoma City, I'm going to take the Nuggets. I just trust their core better, their core more. Oklahoma City has to prove to me they can win in this spot.
As much as I want this young, vibrant Oklahoma City Thunder to advance, I agree with you. Give me the Denver Nuggets. And a quick update: our baseball Vols in the top of the 9, down by 2 runs, 8-6. and now they are 2 outs away.
Yeah, and of course, if they somehow come back and win tonight, they would win the series because they won last night in Fayetteville, Arkansas. So they're trying to go for their first series win in like a month at this point because it's been a rough couple of weekends for the baseballs. We'll surely talk about them here in a little bit. Let's get to some NBA draft lottery because I kind of alluded to this a few minutes ago about the Dallas Mavericks, right? They trade away Luca. Everyone is ripping Nico Harrison for that decision. Mavs fans are basically in full revolt. But now they get the number one pick here in this draft. And it seems like by all indications are probably leaning towards Cooper Flag with that pick. You know, is there still a chance that Dallas can come out, maybe not necessarily ahead, but even in this trade? Because it seemed like a foregone conclusion that Dallas just lost this trade outright. But the one seed perhaps has changed the calculus.
But I tend to understand the people who are saying that there might be some things behind the scenes that help this uh, lottery pick to happen. A lot of people saying that
Was it another cold envelope?
yes, yeah, there might be. I don't know, but because the conspiracy theory is that the NBA helped, the Dallas Mavericks to have the number one pick to compensate for Luka going to the Lakers. I think that's over. I think there's exaggerated. Like I say here in Brazil about soccer referees and all that stuff. It's like I want to believe about fairness and about things running correctly in sports because if not, why do we watch? Why do we, you know, uh, waste our time into something that, if you really think about, is not that vital to society?
Well, I mean, you do also have to ask, why do teams like the Charlotte Hornets never get the one pick? Why do teams like the Washington Wizards never get the one pick? It feels like those teams never get the one pick. Uh, Even though those teams probably should get the one pick more often than not, because they're literally always bad. Like the Charlotte Hornets are probably the most irrelevant franchise, and they only have pick 4 in this class. Like it doesn't make any sense to me.
I I think I would go to an NFL model. The NFL just go right. Oh, but you incentivize losing, but no team wants to be bad forever.
Right. Well, you say that, but then like some of these owners, right? Like, do they really how much do they really care about winning? Like if they're making all this money through revenue sharing, like what incentives is there? I mean, look at Donald Sterling. Did that guy care about winning?
Oh, Donald Sterling, the
Like
things
I
that he
don't think
said.
that guy gave two craps about winning. He just cared about his bottom line and mistreating women and minorities, and then was eventually kicked out of the league for it. But I mean, he never did a single thing that made people think that he cared about winning. Like, I mean, yes, most owners I think do care about winning, right? Like, I mean, any rational person, if they're going to invest in a sports franchise, is going to care about winning. But there's a small minority, to me at least, that like it's just a business investment, and who cares if you win or lose if you make money? So
Yeah,
that's
yeah, I
just
think. Yeah, that's the point because you are in for the competitiveness. If not, why do you have a sports team?
right. Right. I mean, it doesn't make any sense to not be competitive. But unfortunately, with this draft lottery, it some teams I don't feel like get the benefits of it, of at least of sucking like they should. But for Dallas, it's going to be interesting to see if they do draft Cooper Flag, how he does develop. Because I'll be honest, like, yes, he was good at Duke, but I'm going to be honest, I wasn't like overly impressed with Cooper Flag, especially in clutch moments. Like, he was terrible in the Final Four against Houston. he had some moments throughout the season that just weren't um, becoming right of a guy that I think of as a potential superstar in the NBA. Definitely not someone that if we're going to compare him, right? Because basically, you know, I look at this as like Traylon Burks replacing AJ Brown with the Titans. Can Cooper Flag replace Luka Doncic?
No,
I
it's a
that's
fair.
all.
I think that that's why the risk. When you lose a superstar like that, there should be healing times. Like you just broke up with a long time ex girlfriend, you try to hop on in the next relationship. You need to disconnect from one legend to the other, ideally.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't think it's necessarily going to work out for Dallas. Now, also, I'll say this too. I'm curious to see what the Spurs do at 2. I've seen some people suggest they should trade the farm for a superstar because they also have pick 14 as well. Because you have Victor Wembanyama still now. Granted, we'll see what he's like after his health issues this year, but I still have confidence he's going to be a great player. And
Yeah,
as long as you still have him, right? Like, is there someone at 2 you can pick, or is there someone you can trade for with that pick?
I
That'll
think
be the most
Cooper
interesting
Flag
to me.
Cooper Flag is going number one, but you have to really think about how much of a value you have with this draft.
Right, because I'll say this, it doesn't really feel like throughout when I look at the college basketball, right? I mean, obviously Cooper Flag is that main prospect, and it looks like unfortunately, okay, no, the game is still not over between Tennessee and Arkansas. I thought that game
One out, one out left.
yeah. So, but like honestly, the most impressive player to me in the college this year was Walter Clayton from Florida. Now, I'm not sure what he's being projected in the mock draft, but if I were picking one player best of what I saw in college this year, it would be Clayton because that dude was just insanely clutch. He's being projected late first round, which I think someone's getting a steal there. Also, Chaz Lanier is projected late first round. What a freaking catch by Arkansas! I can't even be mad at that. And also, how did we have 14 hits but only scored 6 runs? I guess we must have left a lot of runners in scoring position.
What a way to win the game.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even be mad at that. That was impressive. Um, but I will say, for Tennessee, right, another game 2 loss. And tonight they started Liam Doyle. And I guess he did not have his normal type game. So, and you can tell the Arkansas fans are very excited. I mean, for Arkansas, I'm sure this is their Super Bowl. Like,
They
I mean,
have some beef with Tennessee baseball.
yeah, I mean, this has to be the Super Bowl because, Gus, do you know how many College World Series championships Arkansas has?
No,
0. They have 0 championships
and
in
Tennessee
college.
has one.
Tennessee has 1. So at the end of the day, like, yeah, they may have been us tonight, but they still don't have a championship in college baseball. So, you know, who cares? But they are obviously this is like their Super Bowl, so that way, so they can run around and brag about how we own Tennessee in the regular season, but like, you know, you still haven't won anything in the postseason. But I will say this on Tennessee, right? On baseball, real quick, it just the team is just too inconsistent, especially on defense, and the bullpen is not that good this year. It's definitely not what it was last year. I'm not expecting a return to Omaha. At this point, I don't know. I think super regionals to me is 50-50 based on who we draw in regionals. Like, this team
Yeah,
has the capability to go to Omaha and go deep. The problem is just it feels like the team isn't as focused. And perhaps it's a championship hangover. And that's honestly partially what I think it is. It's a championship hangover, and you lost like Christian Moore and a lot of the other top players from last year's team. Like, you don't have Dylan Dryland on this team, Kavaris Tears. You don't have Kirby Cornell on this team. You don't have Xander Sechrist, and you don't have Drew Beam. Like, you don't have any of those guys on this team because they've all graduated. And it's hard to replace that many leaders. And all those guys were so special because they were consistent. They came out and they didn't let the games really affect them. The emotions really affect them. Um, and these guys that we have now just aren't at that level right now. So that's why we're not seeing the same level of talent, or well, okay, I'm not saying level of talent, but the same level of execution that we saw last year. So I do think there is a leadership problem combined with the championship hangover, and I don't think it's Tony Vitello's fault or anything like that. It just, I mean, you're not going to win a national title every year.
No, and that 2024 team was a peak of all the you know Tony Vitello's work in terms of creating that roster, building that roster, maturing to disappointment. Especially the Notre Dame lost in the Super Regionals, and that team overseed last year. But this year they came back to earth a little. I think they're still going to make the SEC and SEC conference championship, but
Oh,
you know,
you think they're going to make the conference championship game? I certainly don't think they're making the conference championship game. I don't see it this year unless we magically find some bullpen pitching. Like we haven't won a series in a month. Like I don't think they're going to magically find themselves in Hoover. Now I could be wrong about that, but I just don't see it with this particular squad.
yeah, they're going to have to rebuild themselves, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's more like a rebuild, more like a reload, but it's just
Yeah.
something's gone wrong with this team's chemistry this year. It just it is what it is, and they still have a chance to win the series tomorrow. But based on recent outcomes, I don't know if I would pick them to do so. Also, while we're just on the train of Tennessee sports, do want to shout out Tennessee softball. They're the number 7 seed overall in their tournament this year. Of course, obviously, Carlin Perkins has been one of the best pitchers in all of softball. They defeated Miami of Ohio today, 17-0 in a run rule game. So obviously an easy start to their tournament. But to me, right, like, can they make it back to Oklahoma City? Last year they lost to Alabama in the Super Regionals, which was definitely a tough loss for them. And so in their quadrant, right, they got Ohio State, North Carolina, and Miami. They're going to play Ohio State in the 1-0 versus 1-0 game because this format is exactly like baseball. I do feel pretty confident they'll get past this weekend. And then if they win this weekend, they'll play someone from the Baton Rouge Regional. And LSU has actually lost a game in that regional. So right now, Southeastern Louisiana and Nebraska are the two teams that are in the best position to move on from the Baton Rouge Regional. So I do think Tennessee has a pretty good shot of making it back to Omaha, where they're probably going to face Oklahoma in the first Women's College World Series game if they make it there, which is a very hard draw. Now, they did beat Oklahoma in a best-of-3 series in Norman a few weeks ago. So this team certainly has a capability. My expectation for this team is they make it to Omaha. I think they can win like a game or two, or not Omaha, Oklahoma City. They can make it to Oklahoma City, win a game or two there. I do think that's probably as far, unless they can find a way to upset Oklahoma.
No, but this team has really supersede expectations, especially in the last few years, and really, really kind of, but I think this year they're more mature, definitely under the leadership of the weeklies.
Yeah, so that's good luck to them, and I certainly hope they can get back to OKC. Additionally, just quick on the football trail, and there's actually two things. Well, really, one of them is just a UT thing, but I want to get this out. So we did get a 5-star offensive lineman commit from Gabriel Osinda for next year's class. He is a 6'7", 330-pound lineman from Canada. So very, very impressive. coming in. He's so we have 2 5 stars now next year, including Fajan Brandon, um, who is Heupel's, I guess, third 5-star quarterback that he has recruited. So, he will be joining next year McIntyre and Merklinger, assuming neither one of them transfer. But of course, you don't know what's going to happen year to year anymore in college football.
Yeah.
However, the most interesting debate right now on campus, I forgot to put this in the rundown. So there's rumors that the Vols might move away from Nike because apparently the contract with Nike is ending, and there's rumors that they may go back to Adidas. They might explore other options. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like, do you think they should stick with Nike, or do you think that perhaps there's other athletic brands that would be more beneficial to UT?
And it feels like Nike is losing some ground, not only in the United States, but in Brazil as well. Corinthians thinking about moving away from Nike, a team that has been with them for a really long time. But I think, in terms of uh, uh, like sports, in terms of, I think it won't change anything. I think the gear is gonna be look good, and it's a very modernized kind of feeling.
Right. So Brent Hubbs today, he says that UT's deal with Nike expires next June. And Nike had an exclusive negotiation deal with the University of Tennessee that expired at the end of March. And Adidas has made a very aggressive pitch. And because Adidas really wants to bring Tennessee back, because Tennessee, up until I believe it was 2014, was Adidas until that contract ended and they moved over to Nike. So Adidas is trying to bring them back. And, to me, I'll be honest, like the uniforms, I'll say to me, the Nike stuff has looked better. And honestly, I've really liked the Nike ball shop overall. Now,
Yeah,
I've heard
it's a
several
modern
people
cut.
who don't like the Nike UT stuff and would rather go back to either Adidas or move to another brand. Now, I know in terms of other stuff I've heard people be very against Under Armour because they think their stuff doesn't look very good. So to me, it seems like it'd be Nike or Adidas. Yeah, I've heard some people float. What about Jordan? I mean, Jordan is just Nike. And to me, like the thing about Nike is obviously their CEO is Phil Knight, who is a massive donor of the University of Oregon. And of course, we have competed with Oregon for several recruits over the years at this point because they're a massive player now in college football. So you have to wonder for Tennessee, and frankly for any other school that's not Oregon, how advantageous is it really to be with Nike? Because to me, like you're potentially just supporting one of your big competitors.
Yeah, and I feel like, Nike, as I said before, I feel like kind of s- losing some ground, and that's true. They have that that college football connection with the Nike CEO and one university that can play a factor.
Right. So I'll be curious to see what the University of Tennessee does. Of course, they're going to make the decision that makes them more money, but I'm curious to see what the fan reaction is if they do move away from Nike. Now, quickly back to the ice for the Stanley Cup playoffs. We do have the Leafs Panthers going to a game 7. That's going to be an incredible atmosphere in Toronto on Sunday.
But
And
huge pressure.
yes, so much pressure on Toronto. Of course, Florida is the defending champion, so I don't think they're really entering this game with much of any pressure. And plus, it's Miami, right? Like, how many people truly care about the Florida Panthers?
And they're
The
not even in Miami. They're an hour away.
Yeah, up in Sunrise, Florida. So to me, so
Yeah.
and that's just the pressure is going to be so immense on
Oh,
them.
for sure. Definitely. Yeah.
Some point.
And especially that now we have at least one Canadian team in the West Conference Final.
Right. At some point, the Toronto Maple Leafs have got to find a way to win one of these series. Why not now? Why not this year? I'm going with Toronto.
I'm going Toronto too,
Yeah.
to keep that Canadian Stanley Cup final alive.
Right. Now, unfortunately for our friend Dylan Becker, his Capitals have been eliminated. They lost to the Carolina Hurricanes in 5. So the Carolina was just a better team in this series, and the Capitals once again proved that being the 1 seed is a curse in the NHL. It just is. So sorry for them. The Edmonton Oilers are back to the Western Conference Finals. They defeated Vegas in 5. Connor McDavid, a great series there. And the Dallas Stars lead 3-2 over the Winnipeg Jets. So we have currently one Canadian team to the Western Conference Finals. We have 2 still alive. The Leafs have a game 7. The Winnipeg has to win 2 straight to move on to the Western Conference Finals. So Canada has a chance at this point to end their drought, which is always the most interesting thing to watch when it comes to the Stanley Cup playoffs. Also, I forgot to mention this when it comes to basketball. WNBA starts tonight. Got the Los Angeles Sparks and the Golden State Valkyries on. Of course, I believe this is Golden State's very first game as a WNBA franchise. So cool to see them in the league now. Of course, to me, the number one storyline when it comes to WNBA is Caitlin Clark. In her sophomore season in the WNBA, she'll be all the attention is on her and the Indiana Fever, especially with the rivalry with Angel Reese and the Chicago Sky. And that's a rivalry that just has to continue to grow for the league, because that's what's going to draw eyeballs to the league, is that particular rivalry.
Yeah, and you have 2 players antagonizing each other. That will make even more eyeballs.
Exactly. So we'll see how this season goes for the WNBA, but I think it'll be exciting. All right, to the NFL, who released their schedule this week. And obviously, for the second straight year, they are going to Brazil. And this year is going to be Chiefs and Chargers coming down to the
Arena, Sao Paulo, Brazil, in Itaquera.
And this year, what's going to be different is it's going to be streamed on YouTube around the world for free.
Yeah, probably here is going to be on Casé TV, which has been a partner in the last season. And I told you, Nick, YouTube is going to be a major player into the streaming. I thought it was going to take a little longer, but this is a proof that YouTube, definitely with all the money that Google has it in promoting their kind of streaming brand, that's going to be a major factor. And I'm excited. Maybe I'll go. I don't know. Let's see if Gustavo Tomazelli might go this year. We'll see.
Right. And you definitely should try to go. I'll be curious to see what the attendance is like, what the atmosphere is like compared to last year, which ended up being a playoff game later on in the season. And Chiefs Chargers could have the potential to be that as well. Now, in addition to the Brazilian game, we also have Vikings Steelers. And go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I wish I could meet Jen Harbour. I don't watch a game. I wish I could give him a tour of Brazil or be his translator. Oh my god, it would be so awesome. Meeting such a legend like Jim Harbaugh. I would have, tried to find the best. I would have showed him the best steakhouse in Brazil and buy the best milk.
Well, I mean, I would be journalistically interrogating him on whether or not did you help South Carolina beat Tennessee in 2022?
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, that'll forever be my question. But in any case, the other international games across the world include Vikings Steelers in Ireland, a game at week 4. Vikings Browns in England in 5. Is it fair for the Vikings to have to play back-to-back games in England?
But it's going to be 2 consecutive weeks, right? I
Right.
guess it
So
makes
one game in
sense.
Dublin, one game in London.
I guess it makes sense. So don't have to go across the Atlantic 2 times.
Right. Right. So I mean, they're going to be in Europe for 2 weeks, but still, that's really interesting there. Then you have Broncos and Jets in London in week 6, Rams, Jaguars, the London Jaguars in week 7, the Falcons and the Colts in Berlin in week 10, and Commanders and Dolphins in Madrid week 11. Like, do we think, because obviously, right, like it's cool to see the NFL go international. I'm starting to wonder, is it too many games though overseas? So this is a lot of travel in like the most physical sport.
But I think the NFL has the kind of space to do that because they are a once a week kind of game. So they can have that, make that work in terms of scheduling. Because if you really think about it, do teams practice that much between games? Not really. I mean, most of the hard practices are, OTAs or mini camps. Those are the practices that really intense. Between games, no. So, and the NFL is just showing that they're going to be the American league in the world because for 15, 20 years ago, it felt like the NBA was going to be that. But it doesn't seem that way anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I get the strategy 100%. I'm just saying it's a lot on these players for sure. I mean, that's just kind of what I see. Um, Looking at some of the holiday games too. The Thanksgiving's going to be awesome. We got Packers Lions. That's been a very, very good series of games in the rivalry there for a
Yeah.
couple of years.
And finally, an exciting Thanksgiving game for the Lions. I mean, has been like a lot of games
I mean,
that
last
is
year was pretty funny. I'm not well. Okay, I'm not saying it was a great game, but it was a funny game. Like the way the Bears melted down at Thanksgiving and got Matt Eberflus fired.
yeah.
I
But
mean,
but but nevertheless, I feel like the Lions being relevant again and having a Thanksgiving game that has playoff implications really it makes the Thanksgiving NFL game even more exciting.
right now I can't wait to see the ratings on this next game. The Chiefs at the Cowboys, Thanksgiving afternoon. Like we get the Cowboys. I mean, and no matter how bad they're still the Cowboys. They're good. They get eyeballs versus Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. That one's going to get a lot of ratings.
Oh yeah, but I by the third quarter, I think a lot of people are just gonna put the game on the TV and do other stuff because I think the Chiefs are gonna dominate. I don't see by late November the Cowboys finding themselves.
Yeah, and then the nighttime game is the Bengals at Ravens, which has been last year. Both of those games were incredible. Like it was
I
awesome.
think the NFL made the right picks.
Yeah, like these are all three, at least in the off season, are all great games. Now, of course, you don't know what's going to happen throughout the season, but you just have to see how it plays out. Additionally, Black Friday we have Bears going to the Eagles, so hopefully it'll be better than I think last year was like Jets and like the Raiders or something. Like, it was not a good game. Oh no, it was Jets and Dolphins, which was an absolute disaster of a game. Now, Christmas on Netflix. So, in addition to a triple header on Thanksgiving, we now have a triple header on Christmas. So, one, the NFL is giving the middle finger to the NBA and saying, "All right, it's now our holiday too." Like, if you're the NBA, like, how do you even like respond to this? Because Christmas has been your holiday, and now the NFL is like, "Nope, we have it now too."
It's because the NFL really wants to expand and they are aggressive. Under Roger Goodell, they say screw sports American traditions. We want to go. I think the last frontier, if the NFL really would be smart though, is to start their season on Labor Day. Then I think that will close the nail on a coffin in terms of you know, other because they went overseas and took Christmas, which was kind of the NBA kind of deal. If I think the season opener should be on Labor Day, and then it will definitely affect MLB and college football.
Well, I mean, the college football tends to have a game or two on Labor Day. I believe they have two main games on Sunday this year on Labor Day weekend, but Labor Day Sunday tends to be really slow. Like, I don't know if it would have that much of a problem if you're going to expand back towards Labor Day, but still, like, that would feel wrong. And it would feel like a spit in the face of college to an extent.
Oh, and also speaking of Labor Day, we forgot to mention the Vols kickoff game has been set up.
Yep, noon. And it's inside the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, so it'll be in air conditioning, which makes it much more appealing to go to.
Oh yeah.
I forgot what I was going to say.
We talk about the
Now,
Netflix.
I will also say this too, though, for college football. I mean, outside of a handful of marquee matchups, let's be real. Most of the week one games are cupcakes, are not against great opponents. So there is an opening there for the NFL.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That's what I said. But back to the Christmas kind of day, I think the NFL knows that a lot of people stay at home and open presents, and the NBA has not been interesting, so they felt the opening and went aggressive, and kind of want to expand partnerships. And Netflix kind of has been open from another a new frontier.
Right. And so on Christmas Day, they're going to have Cowboys and Commanders. So once again, the Cowboys have to play both Thanksgiving and Christmas Day. I feel like if I were a player, I wouldn't be that happy about it. But then again, they're getting paid a lot, so I guess it is what it is there. Additionally, we have the Lions at the Vikings. So the Lions also have to play both Christmas and Thanksgiving as well, which I find interesting. And then on Christmas night, and keep in mind, those first two games are both on Netflix. And then we have the Broncos and the Chiefs on Christmas night. So the Chiefs also have to play both Thanksgiving and Christmas as well. So 3 teams are playing both holidays. So I'm curious how that goes over in those locker rooms.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the Kansas City Chiefs are the hottest brand. I wonder if Taylor Swift is coming to Brazil. If she's smart, she would schedule a concert in Sao Paulo.
To be fair, the last time she went to Brazil, it ended in disaster. I mean,
I mean, they had the casualty of fan, and it was sad, but it wasn't a disaster.
I mean, to be fair, yeah, but like the thing about Taylor Swift is the smallest thing happens against her, right? Like people are going to take it a mile. So I don't know if it would be the smartest thing for her from a PR perspective to go back to Brazil. But then again, I guess she has to go back to Brazil at some point.
Yeah, Brazilian fans love her, and she has a big cult like in America. Like there's a lot of people who love her.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if she's gonna go back to Brazil, like she would have to, hold a concert and just be like, hey, like we've learned from the last time, so that we don't have that happen again.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Anyway, so I did want to bring up the Titans. So first and foremost, there are no primetime games for the Tennessee Titans this season, which
No
a lot of
surprise.
people are complaining about, but like we were 2-14 last year, 2-15 last year. Like the Titans did not deserve a postseason game. Like you got to earn that. And with a rookie quarterback, like I would expect most of these games to be losses. And frankly, the first part of the schedule is hard. Like Broncos, Rams, Colts, Texans, at Cardinals, at Raiders. Like that's a tough start. Like I think legitimately, like the first 10 games, the Titans might have 1 or 2 wins. Now I do think the back half. So like starting at week 13, week 12, right? You have the Seahawks, Jaguars, at Browns, at Niners, Chiefs, Saints, Jags. Now take out 49ers and Chiefs. The rest of those games are more winnable. Like, I think looking at the schedule, the Titans are going to have a very rough start to the year. Like, I could see them being like 1-9 at one point, but I think they get like maybe 3 to 4 wins down the stretch against easier competition, and maybe get to like 5-12 is my prediction looking at it. But I mean, obviously, I don't have a lot of faith that they're going to do much better than that.
Yeah, I think the main goal this season is to develop Cam Ward.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Like that's my whole that's all I care about this season. Is can you present? Can you show that you can develop that guy? Now, I want you to present something for me. So I did this the other night. This is I forget what website it is, but you can pick every single game, all 250 or 72 games throughout the season. So this is what I came up with. Now, I'm just gonna say this. If you'll take out like the little like super at the bottom, so we can see the bottom row, because we're missing a whole division, or some of the worst teams, Gus. But some of the best teams there, of course, you see the Bills, Ravens, Texans, Chiefs, Eagles, the Packers. I got the Falcons winning the NFC South and the 49ers coming back to win the NFC West. Now, the worst free teams, and they're covered up by the Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports, episode 180. Gussie, can you take that off?
Oh,
just for this. Oh, no. Go back. Put the image back on. Take off the big bottom. Just for a moment so we can see it. Yeah, there we go. So the three worst teams, I have the Jets, the Browns, and the Saints as the three worst teams. So kind of what do you make of this, of these picks?
I mean, first of all, you're very highly on the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are going to go, 9-8, tops 8-9.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy? Even with that mark, they still missed the playoffs in this scenario.
Yeah, because you have the three really good teams. You have the Lions, the Rams, and even the Commanders. That I guess they would have make it because of a tiebreak.
Correct. Yeah, and I can show on the next image kind of how it breaks down by record. So if you go to the next image, that 4-1-2-1, so this is how it breaks down by seed. So I have the Chiefs and Niners as buys. And then you can see I have Steelers at Bills. So the Steelers, as always, 9-8. And like I wasn't even trying to make them 9-8. It's just how it ended up. And miraculously, they're the 7th seed. And that's just so on brand for Pittsburgh. If they they don't have a quarterback. I just know they're going to be 9-8, and somehow they make the playoffs.
Yeah, but they're going to be destroyed by the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. And then you got the Broncos at 6, and then I got the one team I'm definitely high on is the Cincinnati Bengals. I think they're coming back this year. I expect their defense to be better, and their passing game to still be really good. And of course, on the other side, really not much change from last year's playoffs. I also have San Francisco being back. I'm high on the Falcons. I think the Falcons are going to be really good this year. And then, of course, Washington, LA, and Detroit were all in. Now, let me show you what my playoff picks are. And, of course, this will likely change. I'll probably do another one of these right before the actual season.
Yeah, send me the website so I can do mine too.
Yeah, I'll send you that. And next episode, I would love for you to share yours. But I'm trying to figure out how to put this one on. All right, so these are the picks. So 4, 2, 1, 2, 3. And so you can see that we have a couple of upsets each round. And so probably the most shocking one is the Bengals taking out the Chiefs in the divisional round. And so I have Bengals Ravens in the AFC title game. The Ravens winning at home. after a rematch of Josh Allen versus Lamar Jackson in a divisional round. And then I have Ravens versus Niners again, like in 2012. But I have the Ravens winning that game, giving Lamar Jackson his first Super Bowl. So, what's your thoughts on this scenario?
I mean, uh, I think I see the Lions going to the Super Bowl. I think it's going to be Lions Ravens.
Hmm. I don't know. I feel like what happened to the Lions last year was so demoralizing. I'm afraid they're going to end up like the Titans from a few years ago, and I just don't trust Jared Goff.
I can see that. That's true. You know, they were the number one seed. They lost badly at home. Like, you know, the Titans did all of that in 2021.
Right. So I don't know, but and, I put this on TikTok the other day. And I had some people being like, "Why are you so high on the 49ers?" Well, the Niners still have a lot of talent. They still have Brock Purdy, who just got signed into a 5-year, $265 million contract because he's a very good quarterback. Kyle Shanahan has proven he can win a lot in the regular season, but as by Evans for this pick, I don't trust him in the Super Bowl. Because it's ultimately Shanahan, but Shanahan is a good enough coach to get San Francisco back to what I expect. And frankly, the Rams, I still expect to be good. I don't expect them to be great. I expect the Seahawks to take a significant step back, and I expect the Cardinals to still be mediocre at best.
Yeah, I think they're, definitely I can see those scenarios, but a team that I really feel like there is going to be an improve as well, the Chargers. I can see the Chargers sneaking in the playoffs. I think by year 2, Jim Harbaugh really going to find their identity.
Yeah, and I don't remember why the Chargers missed. Like when I was going through my picks, I had the Chargers losing like 2 or 3 games they shouldn't pick. They shouldn't lose, and I had them charging away.
Yeah,
So,
I like the Chargering away.
yeah, and like I know the Colts were in the playoff hunt at points, like the Raiders, even the Patriots. I had them in the playoff hunt. Like I think I had the Dolphins start off like 6-1, and then they fell apart. I think I even had the Cardinals at like 5-1, and then they fell apart. Of course, Chicago, I had them in the hunt. Tampa, Dallas. And then in terms of the worst team, I expect that to be probably either New Orleans, Cleveland, or the Jets.
Yeah, I think the Jets definitely going to go through a really hard rebuild after that debacle of a trade that was Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that is what it is there. Last quick American thing, Kyle Larson won at Kansas. Really, really solid race. Additionally, the NASCAR is at North Wilkesboro this weekend for the All-Star race. Hopefully we see at least some improvement with short track racing because it's not been good at all this year. I am not super excited to see it this season or this weekend. But that's all I have for American sports, Gus. What do you have in Brazilian sports?
Oh, here in Brazil, there's a lot of chaos in the Brazil national team. Early in the week, Carlo Ancelotti, which is still a Real Madrid coach, but after losing the El Clasico to Barcelona and pretty much gave Barcelona the La Liga title and being eliminated in the quarterfinal of the Champions League, Florentino Perez, time to move away. They even choose their next coach, Xabi Alonso, which did a phenomenal job at Bayer Leverkusen in Germany. And when he was a player, he was almost an idol to Madrid fans. But now Carlo Ancelotti was free to sign with Brazil, and he did that early in the week. But now all of this is in jeopardy because Brazilian Confederation President Edinaldo Rodrigues is removed from office for a second time. Rio de Janeiro court annuls the agreement that validated the election won by Edinaldo Rodrigues. The ruling is that former President Coronel Nunes, the Coronel Nunes, was mentally unfit to sign a document, and the signature was forged by someone at the Brazilian Football Confederation. Uh, and the election as well. He won pretty much all the votes that he could, because uh, for him to be elected, he needed the votes for all the state soccer confederations and all the teams from first and second division. He got all that. Ronaldo, former Real Madrid and Inter Milan and Brazil, he pretty much was the best player for Brazil in the 2002 World Cup. The Brazil won. Tried to run against Reginaldo Rodriguez, but he wasn't even allowed to run. But now everything can change. We'll see what it's going to be. The ruling said that new elections needed to be held um, by the Brazilian Soccer Confederation. And at the time, FIFA and CONMEBOL sent letters to CBF warning the risk of external interference in the federation. So it's a big chaos. For
Like, I mean, yeah, I mean, to me, like that just doesn't sound, it doesn't sound healthy for the future of
no,
Brazilian.
no, no, not at all. But it's funny. All this could be forgotten if 1 year from now, the Brazilian roster clicks with probably Carlo Ancelotti, and they do 7 really good games and won the 2026 World Cup. But as of right now, there's a lot of turmoil politically in the in the Brazil national team and in Brazilian Soccer Federation. Real quick, the Brazilian Championship. It's on week 9. Palmeiras in the top after beating in a last minute goal against Sao Paulo. Flamengo second. Red Bull Bragantino third. And Palmeiras is going to play Bragantino on Sunday. Huge match. First place versus third place. Bragantino has been undefeated for quite a while, so I expect to be a great game. I hope I might be able to cover that game live in Bragança Paulista. This midweek was the Libertadores Sulamericana week 5 group stage. São Paulo and Palmeiras are in the playoffs. Flamengo, which was in the brink of elimination, won 2-0 and only needed a win to advance. Internacional had a really good win on the road as well. And, so in Brazilian teams, Libertadores looks good, but in Sul-Americana, Corinthians, oh my God, that game was horrible. Talk about a game that was, really, really bad in terms of, quality, in terms of intensity. It fell off. But Corinthians won 1-0. They are alive in Copa Sul-Americana. So that's pretty much, all.
Wins a win. Wins a win.
Yeah, win is a win. Win is a win. Doesn't matter. But a guy that was with the radio with me told me that. It's like, it doesn't matter if you win really convincingly, beautifully 4-0 or in a very ugly game 1-0. Both games are in the group stage would count the same number of points, 3. So that Corinthians got the 3 pointers that they needed.
Yeah, but hey, survive and advance, like Jim Valvano once said.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but in any case, that is all the time that we have for Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports, episode 180. Man, we're 20 away from 200.
Oh my God, we kept it alive. It felt crazy.
Yeah, we've been almost we've been at it almost now for what, 4 years. So
yeah, 4 years, because it's so crazy that 4 years ago, I think was this week, 4 years ago, I was leaving the United States, coming to Americana, not knowing what's gonna happen. I mean, now I am the PR of Bronco. Kind of established myself here. So yeah, and now you are killing it in Chattanooga, one of the best reporters. So
Well, thank
Well,
you. It's been busy recently. That's
yeah.
for sure.
I mean, good, hardworking people. That's what happens when you are good on your job. You are busy, but
All right, guys. Woo. Thank you so much for joining us. The only Brazilian American sports podcast. Y'all have a great night, and y'all stay safe, especially if you're in Kentucky, Tennessee. Some large tornadoes on the ground right now. So y'all stay safe tonight.